As the night grew deeper, a YouTube video about the Desolate Friday Cemetery appeared on my computer screen in the living room. I realized I had wandered into horror story channels. This video told the chilling story of the Desolate Friday Cemetery located in Savon Village of the Yenisei district in Çanakkale. According to the video, a mother named Sarah, who died during childbirth in the 1960s, and her baby daughter Lily, who died 20 days later, had graves that were repeatedly separated yet mysteriously reunited. Several different news sources had also reported the same event. They wrote that family members who separated the graves later returned to find them joined together again. Faced with this unbelievable story, my curiosity was stirred, but at the same time, a deep unease crept over me. I was alone in a dark room. All my focus was on the images on the screen. My heart was pounding rapidly, both from excitement and fear. As the video continued, the narrator showed a faint image of a cemetery on the screen. It appeared to be a small burial ground belonging to the Desolate Friday Mosque. The old moss-covered gravestones and the voice of an elderly woman supported the narrator's story. In a panicked tone, the woman said that as she had read in the news, Sarah's and baby Lily's graves had been separated many times but mysteriously reunited each time. As I watched the video, mixed emotions filled me. I didn't want to believe it, yet I decided that I needed to see what this cemetery really looked like with my own eyes. I had to see it in person. The next evening, late at night, I decided to leave home to reach the Desolate Friday Cemetery. When I arrived, darkness was beginning to settle in. The autumn wind blew through the trees, casting shadows over the stones along the road. I had driven away from the city center, taking a remote side road off the Yenisei bypass. Trees obscured movement on both sides, and only a few vehicles passed by. After a while, I saw the sign for the Desolate Friday Mosque. The small image of the mosque and the words Desolate Friday Mosque looked pale in the night. I pulled my car over and got out, walking toward the old iron gate. When I pushed it with my hand, the rusted hinges creaked loudly. The moment I stepped into the cemetery, the air suddenly turned cold. It felt as though the cemetery itself opened into a different climate. The rocky soil sank beneath the howling wind, and with every step, stones crunched under my feet. There were only autumn leaves, old gravestones, and soil around me. The damp smell of earth rose to my nose. In the dim light, my eyes tried to read the inscriptions on the stones. Before it grew completely dark, I needed to see the name written on the sign. At the end of the path lay a fallen lantern and scattered letters. Desolate Friday Mosque Cemetery. I picked up the lantern and fixed its open lid. When I raised my head, only a thin silhouette of stars remained in the sky. As the wind howled again, the shadows of the trees swayed like waves, sending shivers through me. While examining the cemetery more closely, I realized how completely alone I was. I wandered among the weathered gravestones. Beneath the deepening shadows, some stones bore dates that were difficult to read. Near the gate stood an old iron lantern, perhaps once used to light the area. It was now broken. This cemetery truly looked abandoned and isolated. It was a place without echoes. Midnight was approaching. I moved carefully, checking the ground. I'd brought a lantern and a bottle of water with me. My intention was only a short night visit, yet part of me felt I shouldn't leave without spending at least an hour or two there. Even when I walked quietly, The faint sounds of wind behind me felt as though they were playing tricks on my mind. I reached a few gravestones ahead. As shadows fell into the long gaps between stars, I searched for the graves of Lily and Sarah. Suddenly, the entrance gate behind me closed. The sound of the handle swaying slightly in the wind was deeply unsettling. Very little light reached the stone walls built years ago. Shadows blended into one another. Until my eyes adjusted, I could barely make out any details. I frowned, searching for small gravestones near the edges. I hoped to find at least some sign resembling the images from the video. As I moved forward with the flickering light of my lantern, a strange sense of emptiness spread through me whenever my steps struck the stones. I had stopped at nearly every gravestone, touched them, tried to read their inscriptions. These were old stones covered in soil. The names Sarah and Lily were already etched into my mind. Among gravestones, more than a century old, I began searching for the mother and daughter grave seen in photographs. As I walked through the darkness, the shadows cast by the stones seemed to fall over me. The wind shook the tree branches, and for a moment, as I walked without looking back, I heard what sounded like a child crying in the distance. When I stopped, the sound ceased. My ears felt filled with the wind's hum. My heart suddenly raced. My breath caught. I wanted to turn around, but my lantern barely illuminated the distance. I kept moving with each step. A different, dull murmur vibrated in my ears. When I reached the foot of a grave, I noticed some shimmering stains on the gravel. As I examined them, gently waving my lantern, it seemed as though tiny shadows were rising between the stones and disappearing again. At that moment, I heard footsteps behind me, like a hand brushing through dry leaves. I turned quickly, but there was no one there. All I could hear again was the wind. Among the leaves, I noticed a faintly shining object. In front of a gravestone lay a small metal baby shoe. I thought it might belong to Lily. I reached out, but as the lantern light shifted, it seemed to retreat. As my fingertips neared the shoe, a shiver ran through my body. It felt as though I sensed not only the shoe, but the yellowed smell of soil itself. Just then, a creaking sound rose from the upright stone beside me. I turned sharply. One of the tree branches twisted unnaturally. It wasn't the wind. My heart leapt into my throat. I pointed my lantern toward where the crying had come from. Then I heard a whisper break the silence, a hoarse voice murmuring, "Mother!" It sounded almost like a scream rising from within me. The cold intensified around me. My eyes filled with tears. Fear clouded everything. I spun around suddenly. Directly in front of me, beside an old gravestone, stood another grave-like silhouette, with its back turned to me. I waved my lantern, but it didn't disappear. Instinctively, I stepped back. The moment felt so real that even I couldn't believe it. Then another whisper echoed a few steps ahead. "Lily." My heart began to beat unbearably fast. Everywhere my lantern shone, I found shadows. Trying to regain control, I told myself it was just nerves. At that instant, another sharp footstep echoed in my ear. It felt as though a thin hand tried to touch me. I spun around again. Nothing. I ran my hand over my back. Only cold emptiness remained. A distant sound followed, a faint growl like a mother calling softly. My steps quickened. Everything was swallowed by darkness, and I no longer understood what surrounded me. My only thought was to escape alive. I rushed forward, unwilling to drop my lantern. Just then, one of the gravestones shifted slightly. I saw it clearly. 2 graves, their ends touching, as if they had slid together across the ground. My heart nearly stopped. Suddenly, everything became clear. Sarah's and Lily's gravestones were truly joined, side by side. The clanging of metal echoed as though recalling their movement. This wasn't a legend. The news had been right. I rushed toward them, trying to separate the stones. I dug my fingers into the soil, pushing desperately. It felt as though a thick metal spring beneath the stone was stretching. At the same moment, the air trembled around me. The ground itself seemed to vibrate. I shuddered. Just as the news had said, families had tried to separate them countless times, always in vain. As soon as I moved them, that dreadful sound of reunion returned. Then I felt it. A hand, a gentle kiss-like touch against my cheek. I nearly screamed. It felt like a burning heat sliding over my skin. My lantern shook and fell from my hand. In the darkness, I tried to see what was beside me, but I sensed only a tangible presence. My hands trembled uncontrollably. The lantern shattered, its glass breaking. In the broken reflection, something approached step by step. Through the shattered glass, I saw a horrifying hand. Black, translucent, like the pale hand of a baby waiting to reunite with its mother. When it touched me, I froze. There was no expression, only an empty darkness. A numbing cold engulfed my body, my legs locked. My heart felt ready to burst. For a moment, only I existed, and it stood over me. Then a scream erupted from within me. I collapsed onto the grass, not knowing what I struck. The lantern went out completely. Darkness swallowed everything. I fumbled until I managed to relight the lantern. When I looked around in panic, there was nothing. Only dry leaves stirred by the wind. I turned and ran. Even as I ran, I felt a touch on my shoulders. An invisible hand brushed my neck. My heart pounded wildly. My strength faltered, but I couldn't stop. I tripped over a gravestone and fell hard. When I looked up, trembling, I saw the edge of Sarah's grave. Then I noticed a bright object nearby, a worn baby bottle lying beside the gravestone. The sight made my skin crawl. I picked it up, but felt nothing. It was cold, lifeless. I looked back one last time. The cemetery greeted me only with a cold wind whispering farewell. I knew then I would never look back. I ran to my car and left. By the time I escaped the Desolate Friday Cemetery, it was past midnight. The silence remained behind me, but I couldn't make sense of what I had experienced. My heart felt as though shards of ice were breaking inside me. At home, I could barely make coffee with trembling hands. I couldn't sleep that night. Images haunted me. The baby crying in her mother's arms. The graves moving, the bottle spinning endlessly in my mind. Even in daylight, the fear lingered. News reports confirmed it again. Sarah's and Lily's graves had been separated many times and always reunited. I shivered. I survived that night physically, but the marks it left on my mind never faded. The mystery of the graves may remain unsolved, but I experienced the terror myself. It remains etched in my soul, an unforgettable memory that will stay with me forever. This is what I experienced in the Desolate Friday Cemetery. Whether what I saw was real or just my mind playing tricks on me in the darkness, I still don't know. But one thing is certain. Some graves are not sealed by soil alone. Some bonds cannot be broken, not even by death. Perhaps that is why Sarah and Lily's graves always find their way back to each other. This was my story. Would you have the courage to enter such a place in the middle of the night? If you enjoy horror and mystery stories said to be based on real events. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Until the next story, if you're not alone.